America, the land of opportunity, grapples with a stark contradiction. Beneath the facade of prosperity, a crisis festers: homelessness. It's a crisis that stretches from coast to coast, touching every city, every town. The faces of homelessness are varied: families priced out of their homes, veterans struggling to find their footing, individuals wrestling with mental health and addiction. This is not just a story of numbers, but of human beings, people with hopes, dreams, and potential but trapped in a cycle of despair. We see them on our streets, under bridges, in makeshift shelters, a constant reminder of our collective failure to address this growing epidemic. The homelessness crisis is not a localized problem, it's a national shame. It's a reflection of our societal values, our priorities, and our willingness to truly address the root causes of poverty and inequality. This crisis demands our attention, our compassion, and most importantly, our action. The numbers paint a grim picture. Over 650,000 Americans experience homelessness on any given night, a staggering figure that represents countless individual tragedies. From bustling metropolises to quiet suburbs, the crisis knows no bounds. In major cities, tent cities have become a familiar sight, a stark reminder of the housing affordability crisis gripping our nation. While the problem is widespread, certain areas have become epicenters of this crisis. Los Angeles, a city synonymous with glamour and opportunity, also bears the weight of the nation's largest homeless population. San Francisco, a hub of innovation and wealth, grapples with the consequences of skyrocketing rents and a widening gap between the haves and have-nots. The factors contributing to homelessness are complex and interconnected. Stagnant wages, coupled with soaring housing costs, have made finding affordable housing an unattainable dream for many. Mental health issues, addiction, and a lack of affordable health care further exacerbate the problem. This is not a crisis of fate, but a crisis of choice. We have the resources, the knowledge, and the capacity to make a difference. The question is, do we have the will? The sheer scale of America's homelessness crisis is difficult to comprehend. The latest figures reveal a staggering reality. Over 650,000 Americans are experiencing homelessness on any given night. This isn't just a number, it represents individuals, families, and veterans living without the basic human dignity of a safe and stable place to call home. The crisis is particularly acute in certain regions. California, for instance, shoulders a disproportionate burden, with 44% of the nation's homeless population residing within its borders. Major cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle are grappling with unprecedented levels of homelessness, their streets transformed by tent encampments and makeshift shelters. These numbers represent a collective failure to address the root causes of homelessness: poverty, lack of affordable housing, and inadequate access to healthcare, particularly mental health services. While cities pour billions of dollars into emergency shelters and temporary solutions, the crisis continues to escalate. The current approach is akin to putting a bandage on a gaping wound, addressing the symptoms without tackling the underlying disease. At the heart of America's homelessness crisis lies a fundamental economic reality: the ever-widening gap between wages and housing costs. Since 2020, rents have skyrocketed by an alarming 50%, while wages have remained stagnant for many Americans. This disparity has made finding affordable housing nearly impossible for low-income families, seniors living on fixed incomes, and individuals working minimum-wage jobs. The current housing market has created a perfect storm for homelessness. As demand for affordable housing far outstrips supply, landlords are able to charge exorbitant rents, pushing low-income renters further to the margins. Many find themselves priced out of their own neighborhoods, forced to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table. The consequences of this affordability crisis are dire. Families are forced to live in overcrowded conditions, doubling up with relatives or resorting to substandard housing. Individuals are pushed onto the streets, their vulnerability exposed for all to see. This isn't just a housing crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis that demands immediate attention. Instead of addressing the root causes of homelessness, many cities have resorted to criminalizing poverty. Laws against sleeping in public, panhandling, and loitering disproportionately target those experiencing homelessness, pushing them further into the shadows. These laws do nothing to solve the problem, they merely criminalize the act of being poor. We're criminalizing poverty instead of solving it, laments a housing advocate working on the front lines of the crisis. Her words carry the weight of countless encounters with individuals trapped in a cycle of poverty and incarceration. Instead of providing support and resources, we're punishing those who are most in need. This approach is not only morally reprehensible, it's also fiscally irresponsible. It costs taxpayers far more to incarcerate someone than it does to provide them with housing and support services. By investing in permanent housing solutions, mental health services, and job training programs, we can break the cycle of homelessness and create a more just and equitable society for all. Los Angeles, the City of Angels, evokes images of Hollywood glamour and sun-kissed beaches. Yet beneath this glittering facade lies a darker reality, a city grappling with the nation's largest homeless population. The streets of Los Angeles tell a tale of two cities, where opulence and despair exist in jarring juxtaposition. Walk down Hollywood Boulevard, past the star-studded Walk of Fame, and you'll encounter sprawling tent encampments, a stark reminder of the human toll of the housing crisis. The irony is inescapable. Los Angeles, a city renowned for its wealth and extravagance, is also home to the nation's largest concentration of poverty. The juxtaposition is jarring. Luxury condominiums towering over tent cities, designer boutiques just blocks from soup kitchens. This stark contrast lays bare the deep-seated economic inequality that fuels the homelessness crisis. While the city pours millions into emergency services, the problem continues to escalate. Los Angeles spends an estimated $60 million annually on emergency services for people experiencing homelessness, including ambulance rides, hospital visits, and police interventions. Yet, these are merely band-aid solutions that fail to address the root causes of the crisis. Shelters, while providing temporary respite, are often overcrowded and unable to meet the overwhelming demand. The city's failure to prioritize affordable housing has had devastating consequences. With a vacancy rate hovering around a meager 3%, finding an affordable apartment in Los Angeles feels like winning the lottery for those with limited means. The lack of affordable housing options forces individuals and families into impossible choices: pay exorbitant rents and forego basic necessities, or risk losing their homes and ending up on the streets. Section 3. Policy failures and human costs. The homelessness crisis in Los Angeles is exacerbated by policy failures and a lack of political will. Short-term solutions and reluctance to invest in permanent housing have proven inadequate. The human cost is immeasurable, with over 200 unsheltered Angelenos dying annually. These preventable deaths indict a system that fails its most vulnerable residents. Los Angeles needs a comprehensive plan prioritizing permanent housing and mental health care. Section 1. The City by the Bay's Descent. San Francisco, once renowned for its bohemian spirit and iconic landmarks, now grapples with a homelessness crisis and economic disparity. The tech boom brought wealth but also skyrocketing rents and displacement. Longtime residents are forced to leave and the city's unique character fades. Section 2. A city divided, tech wealth versus human despair. The streets of San Francisco offer a jarring glimpse into a city divided. Gleaming office towers housing tech giants stand in stark contrast to tent encampments. The juxtaposition is a constant reminder of the city's growing inequality. The tech boom has created a city of haves and have-nots. The crisis is not merely one of housing affordability, but also of despair. The despair is palpable in the faces of those living on the streets. Shelters are band-aids, says the director of a San Francisco nonprofit that provides services to people experiencing homelessness. We need housing, not handcuffs. The city's focus on temporary solutions fails to address systemic issues. Permanent housing solutions coupled with wraparound services are essential. The human cost of this crisis is immeasurable. New York City, the city that never sleeps, faces a persistent homelessness crisis. Beneath the towering skyscrapers, a different reality unfolds in the shadows. Tens of thousands of New Yorkers grapple with homelessness, often overlooked amidst the city's grandeur. The city's shelter system is stretched thin, operating at over 120% capacity. The crisis is a stark reminder that even in a wealthy city like New York, the safety net is failing. New York City's shelter system is buckling under unprecedented demand. Conditions have deteriorated and wait lists have grown longer. The city has resorted to makeshift shelters, but these are stopgap solutions. The strain is evident in the faces of those who rely on it. Families navigate overcrowded shelters, grappling with a lack of privacy. Individuals with mental health issues and addiction lack specialized care. The shelter system reflects the city's failure to address homelessness. Advocates criticize the focus on temporary shelters as ineffective. High recidivism rates show the current approach is failing. Advocates call for permanent housing solutions and wraparound services. New York City spends $2.2 billion annually on homelessness services, yet the crisis persists. Critics argue for preventative measures like affordable housing, mental health services, and job training. The visible presence of homelessness fuels unease and division among residents. Small businesses struggle as customers avoid areas perceived as unsafe. The time for action is now, before the city drowns in human suffering. Seattle, the Emerald City once known for its beauty and innovation, now faces a spiraling homelessness crisis. Despite billions spent, the number of homeless remains high, with over 14,000 individuals on the streets. Tent encampments proliferate, highlighting the city's struggle to provide adequate shelter. The crisis impacts the economy, with businesses reconsidering their presence. Seattle's progressive reputation is tarnished by its inability to solve this problem. Portland, Oregon, known for its independent spirit and social justice, faces a crisis of conscience. Progressive policies aimed at compassion have exacerbated homelessness and addiction. Streets once vibrant now struggle with addiction, mental illness, and homelessness. Decriminalization of drugs in 2020 aimed to shift focus to treatment. Lack of resources led to a surge in overdoses and open-air drug use. Violent crime increased, leaving residents feeling unsafe. Public camping policy backfired, normalizing homelessness. Tent encampments have spread across parks and public spaces. Compassionate approach has created lawlessness and deterred visitors. Once pristine parks are now perceived as unsafe and unwelcoming. The experiences of Seattle and Portland highlight the unintended consequences of well-intentioned policies. Progressive policies aimed at equity have often failed to address homelessness and, in some cases, worsened the issues. These cities serve as cautionary tales, emphasizing the need for comprehensive solutions. Decriminalizing drugs has not fully addressed substance abuse issues. Without adequate support, many continue to use drugs openly. This has led to a surge in crime and a decline in public safety. Public camping policies have created new problems. Tent encampments raise concerns about health, sanitation, and safety. Widespread homelessness demoralizes residents and businesses. Temporary shelters are essential but not the only solution. Permanent housing and wraparound services must be prioritized. Chicago, the Windy City, renowned for its architectural marvels and Midwestern grit, faces a storm of challenges, with homelessness at the forefront. Despite its reputation, Chicago grapples with economic inequality, a shortage of affordable housing, and inadequate support services. The crisis is evident in tent encampments under the iconic L train tracks. The face of homelessness in Chicago is diverse, reflecting the city's complex social fabric. Families, veterans, and individuals battling mental health issues and addiction find themselves caught in homelessness. Over 68,000 individuals experience homelessness in Chicago annually. The crisis is a persistent stain on the city's conscience. The factors contributing to Chicago's homelessness crisis are multifaceted and interconnected. A shortage of affordable housing, stagnant wages, and rising living costs make it difficult for low-income residents. The city's manufacturing sector has dwindled, replaced by a service-based economy that often fails to provide living wages. The loss of manufacturing jobs has hit Chicago's African American communities particularly hard. Denver, the mile-high city, nestled against the breathtaking backdrop of the Rocky Mountains, has long been a magnet for those seeking a fresh start. However, Denver's allure has come at a cost. Rapid growth has led to a housing crisis, pushing many to the brink of homelessness. The streets now bear witness to economic displacement and social neglect. The crisis has become a major concern for city officials and residents alike, casting a shadow over Denver's image as a thriving metropolis. The sight of tent encampments is a stark reminder that even amidst prosperity, the most vulnerable can be left behind. Chicago, Denver, and cities nationwide face a deadly threat: the fentanyl crisis. This potent synthetic opioid has flooded the streets, causing overdose deaths to skyrocket. The crisis hits the homeless population hard, with many lacking access to healthcare. Cities are increasing access to naloxone and expanding treatment options, but the crisis persists. Phoenix, Arizona, a city synonymous with sunshine and urban sprawl, faces a cruel irony. As the mercury rises, so too does the human toll of its homelessness crisis. The desert heat has become a relentless adversary for those living on the streets. The city's growth has exacerbated the affordable housing crisis. Over 13,000 people are estimated to be experiencing homelessness in Phoenix. Tent cities have sprawled into public parks and vacant lots. The crisis has become a source of growing tension between residents, city officials, and advocates. The factors contributing to Phoenix's homelessness crisis are complex and interconnected. The city's booming economy has driven up housing costs, pricing out longtime residents. The crisis has hit the city's most vulnerable residents particularly hard. Austin, Texas, a city synonymous with live music, tech innovation, and a laid-back vibe, faces a similar reckoning. The city's rapid growth has come at a steep price, leaving many longtime residents behind and exacerbating the city's homelessness crisis. Over 10,000 people are estimated to be experiencing homelessness in Austin on any given night. Tent encampments have become a common sight, a stark reminder of the city's growing disparity. The crisis has become a major point of contention between residents, city officials, and advocates. The factors contributing to Austin's homelessness crisis are complex and interconnected. The city's booming tech industry has driven up housing costs, pricing out longtime residents. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Austin has skyrocketed, far outpacing wage growth. The crisis has hit the city's most vulnerable residents particularly hard. Cities like Phoenix and Austin face a challenge: balancing economic growth with social equity. Growth can lead to housing affordability issues and displacement of longtime residents. The homelessness crises highlight the need for affordable housing and support services. Economic growth can mask the struggles of those left behind. Cities risk becoming enclaves of affluence, pushing out those who can't afford rising costs. Displacement erodes the city's unique character and cultural fabric. Addressing these issues requires a shift in urban planning. We must prioritize social equity, sustainability, and well-being for all residents, invest in affordable housing, healthcare, and opportunities for all, create cities that are livable and prosperous for everyone. The American narrative, woven from resilience and innovation, faces a stark contradiction. Homelessness reflects our collective conscience. Will we avert our gaze or act with empathy? The resources and compassion exist. What's lacking is the collective will. The urgency demands a paradigm shift. The time for complacency is over. The crisis demands more than just awareness. It demands action. We must channel our collective frustration into a sustained movement for change. This is not a spectator sport. It requires each of us to step onto the field. We must demand that our elected officials prioritize affordable housing solutions. Access to safe, stable housing is a fundamental human right. We must hold them accountable for enacting policies that address the root causes of homelessness, from stagnant wages and income inequality to the lack of affordable health care and mental health services. We must demand greater investment in proven solutions like housing first. We must challenge the criminalization of homelessness. We must reject the narrative that pits housed residents against unhoused residents. We must embrace a vision of a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. The path forward is clear. It requires a fundamental shift in our priorities. Let us rise to meet this challenge, knowing that the soul of America depends on it.